We're back, and one of the hardest things in this job is to report news like this. We have just gotten news across the wire that both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot, and reports are that they have been killed.
I remember the day Harvey Milk was assassinated because I remember not believing it, and then of course seeing on the news and seeing Dianne Feinstein, now our senator, explain that both Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone had been shot and killed. And I remember calling my friends who were in school in California and really kind of talking about how terrible it was and how unbelievable it was for us.
I heard about the assassination, just got in my little battered old white Honda Civic and drove down to, like a homing instinct, to San Francisco, 2 hours south. And as we were driving, I'm driving my car, it was raining, and Holly started like this guttural, keening noise. This has never been taped. You're getting a scoop here for those who remember who Holly Near is. And she just came out with this song, "We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives," which became the anthem of the movement. From that night when she sang it at the Candlelight March, we all walked down with candles down Castro Street. We were in shock with the day that Harvey and George Moscone were assassinated.
He was a principled and incredibly effective leader in the gay and lesbian, bisexual, transgender rights movement. He was unapologetic. He was forceful. He was very accomplished in his leadership. He helped to lead the campaign against the Briggs initiative, which would have banned gay and lesbian teachers from teaching in the public school. But I think really what was important about his legacy is he was not. He understood about building coalitions. He understood that just being for gay and lesbian rights was not enough. To be an elected official, he had to be multidimensional. He had to be able to fix the potholes. He had to bring together labor coalition to support his campaign. He had to reach out into all the different neighborhoods and address the various constituencies. And I think one of the things about Harvey Milk that was most noteworthy is he was a coalition builder. When he got elected, he didn't get elected just because he was a strong gay candidate. He got elected because he had built coalitions with some of the most significant political forces in San Francisco at that time. And he was probably the most successful politician of his era in bringing those groups together.
Well, I think of Harvey Milk as a populist. He was a dynamic figure that sort of leaned forward with his arms open like a bird or a kite or an airplane, and really took off and really changed the landscape around gay men and lesbians in politics.
And the polls show that the Briggs initiative, the anti-gay initiative, is winning in the polls by a 63% margin. Do you think that speaks of Northern California or Southern California, which is more conservative?
There are all kinds of polls, and the final poll will be on November 7th. And
sure.
If we can shatter the myths enough, I think the polls are going to change. Let's look at the facts. We've seen 4 states, cities throw out gay rights bills. So now 38 cities have them. 5 years ago, none.
I was opposed to it then, and I was in high school. It was obvious. I mean, there were teachers who we knew but we didn't know, who were the favorite teachers of most of the school, and to see those teachers being targeted by external forces was something we didn't like, and we didn't think it was right.
For the Briggs Initiative, my job was to organize a statewide concert tour of these 2 lesbian performers, Holly Near and Meg Christian, and we performed. I mean, I think it was like 60 or 70,000 people. I always say sometimes I think I say 50 because I don't want to exaggerate, but I mean, we sold out the Santa Monica Civic Center auditorium, 3,000 people. So we're not talking like little basements of churches. We're talking thousands of people.
His charisma, his ability to turn a phrase and charm his way into and out of a difficult conversation. I always thought that was kind of a remarkable thing about the Harvey Milk that I know.
Well, I think that in many ways, Harvey Milk represented a lot about gay men that all gay men relate to. I mean, he had his foibles, he had his dreams, and he didn't try to pretend that he was any larger than life figure. He was always Harvey Milk. And I think that was something that actually made him such a positive leader and gave him a way to connect with people, because he never pretended that he was somebody that he wasn't.
There's a whole lot of history that has happened since Harvey died that I think Harvey Milk would just be astounded. He would be astounded by, I think, the number of people who are involved. Because I think when you're the first to do anything, often it can be a very isolating and alienating experience to think, oh, I'm the only openly gay elected official in the country in San Francisco. But I think if Harvey was to sort of look at where the community's come, that we have now 4 generations of activists that have gone on and carried the torch since Harvey got assassinated. And the work has been extraordinary.
I think the attention that he got, and he was good at that, I think the attention that he got and the fact that it was a major U.S. city where he got elected, it really told people that they could do it too. When I was first elected, there were, I think, maybe 10, 13 people all across the country, total, who were openly gay and in public office. And now we have people at every level of government. We have judges, we have Supreme Court justices in certain states, we have people in Congress, and I think Harvey Milk inspired that. But it's not just openly gay and lesbian elected officials. I think he inspired a lot of other people as well, people who were more grassroots, people who didn't see themselves as part of the power structure. He inspired a lot of people to say, hey, I can do it too.
Harvey Milk's legacy is, I think, multifaceted. His legacy, of course, is that he was one of the first openly gay elected officials, and that's an incredible legacy because there are many more openly gay, lesbian, transgender elected officials, and he opened the doors for people to run for office, and that's a tremendous legacy because that has had and will have an enormous impact on public policy and ensuring equality. His other legacy was, I believe, having people recognize that, you can make a difference. When you make up your mind that you want to make change, you can do it. And he, I think, is an inspiration to many people in that regard.
His legacy was that people matter, every individual matters, that every one of us have a responsibility for our own liberation or our own oppression. And we can either act to do something proactive or not do anything at all and suffer the consequences.
I believe that everybody has a role to play in politics if you're interested. And Harvey Milk really did make it possible for people who are LGBT to consider going into that era. I think even young people today have a much, I'm not going to say easier time, it's just a different time. And I'd like to think that this country and the state really is maturing and opening hearts and minds.
I think his legacy has been a particular brand of electoral leadership, where, again, where it's not just about somebody's career, but it's about change. It's about coalition building. It's about really not being afraid to speak the truth.
Harvey Milk's legacy, I think, is different to different people. For the LGBT community, he is truly iconic as one of the seminal leaders of the movement for equality here in California and across the country. For people like myself as an elected leader, inspirational in that role. And I think for all Californians, he is an important historical figure who inspired a movement that we all, that many people respect. Sadly, not everybody does.
I mean, just the name Harvey Milk is irreducible. There are always political figures that are complicated, that are real human beings, that put their shoes on one shoe at a time. But they also mark a place and a time and a political space that's all their own. And I think that's what Harvey Milk means to me. His ability to insist on a full-throated political presence for gay people, lesbians, transgenders, at a time when that was just not available. He created that language for us, and that language survives today.
Somewhere in Des Moines or San Antonio, there's a young gay person who all of a sudden realizes that she or he is gay, knows that if the parents find out, they'll be tossed out of the house. The classmates would taunt the child.
And the Anita Bryants and John Briggs are doing their part on TV.
And that child has several options.
Staying in the closet.
And suicide.
And then one day, that child might open the paper that says,
homosexual elected in San Francisco. And there are two new options.
One option is to go to California.
Or stay in San Antonio.
And fight. 2 days after I was elected, I got a phone call. And the voice was quite young.
It was from Altoona, Pennsylvania.
And the person said, stay.
And you've got to elect gay people.
So that child, and the thousands upon thousands like that child, know that
there is hope for a better world.
That there is hope for a better tomorrow.
Without hope,
not only gays,
but those who are black,
the Asians,
the disabled,
the seniors,
the us's.
Without hope, the us's give up.
I know that you can't live on hope alone.
But without it,
life is not worth living.
And you.
And you.
And you.
And you.
You gotta give us hope. You gotta give us hope.